Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to our today's reflection. 24th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C. Our first reading is taken from the book of Exodus, chapter 32, verses 7 to 11, 13 to 15. Our second reading is taken from the first letter of St. Paul to Timothy, chapter 1, verses 12 to 17. And our gospel reading, of course, is according to St. Luke, chapter 15, verses 1 to 32. Dear brothers and sisters, we can summarize today's reading in 4 points if you like. The first point, the ingratitude of the people of Israel to their God. The second point, the will or the willingness to intercede on behalf of our brothers and sisters. The third point, the awareness of our state of sin. And the fourth and last point, the faithful love of God. The first point then, the ingratitude of the people of Israel towards their God. In the first reading, we see how the people of Israel turned away from the precepts that the Lord prescribed to them through the person of Moses. Indeed, the people of Israel were in a long time in bondage in Egypt under the rule of Pharaoh. They suffered all kinds of injustice, inhuman and cruel treatment. They were subjected to hard work, to miserable living conditions. Then the Lord will act by sending Moses, his servants. So here we are in chapter 3 in the book of Exodus, for those who know the story. Then the Lord brought them out of bondage, first by striking Egypt and all its sons and daughters, and the Lord led his people across the Red Sea, where their enemies were drowned in the sea. From now on, no more hard work, no more inhuman living conditions. Then the Lord gave them prescriptions and ordinances to follow. Unfortunately, as we witnesses in the first reading, the people of Israel have failed to abide by these prescriptions. They forgot what their situation had been. They have forgotten their life of misery, of domination when they still in Egypt. They have forgotten that it was the Lord who saved them from the hands of Egyptians. Dear brothers and sisters, this is how we behave sometimes after testing the wonders of the Lord. It is enough a simple and favorable situation. We lose control. We begin to doubt our faith as if the Lord has done nothing for us, as if the Lord is absent in our lives, and even we doubt the existence of God. So, dear brothers, no matter what happens to us in our faith, let us try to remember the past, where the Lord called us, how it started. And I'm asking this question, what is the current situation that makes you doubt the goodness of our God? God never left us. As St. Paul said, every contest for good to those who love the Lord. Let us not seek the Lord where he is not. As in the first reading, the people of Israel, they make God for themselves and they started bowing for it. So the second point, the will to intercede for brothers and sisters. When the people of Israel failed to observe the precepts, then the Lord decided to punish them. The wrath of the Lord rose against them to consume them. Dear brothers and sisters, this is not a God who judges us according to our sins, nor a God who treats us according to our offenses. But at this level, the Lord wants to put the people before their own sins so that they can learn from their faults. But seeing how painful and unbearable could be, Moses will finally beg the Lord on their behalf by imploring the Lord's mercy. This attitude of Moses must be a model of life for us Christians. A time when we meet the night of faith and it is necessary to take someone to rescue us. So, dear brothers and sisters, let us cultivate an attitude of praying for one another as Moses gives us the example in the first reading. Now this one led us to the third point of our reflection, to be aware of one's state of sin. This Sunday's gospel is filled with many lessons of Christian life. This passage is commonly referred to prodigal son. But what catches us our attention here is found in verses 17 and 18. In verses 17, coming to his senses, he thought. And in verses 18, he said, I shall rise and go to my father and say, Father, I have sinned against heavens and you. Dear brothers and sisters, one thing is to derive on the way of faith, to cut off one's relationship with the Lord and live continuously in a state of sin. And another thing too is to realize one's state of sin, or to realize one's distance from the Lord. Indeed, the Lord our God always wants our good by giving us full freedom to decide. But if we do not have a living conscience, we will always abuse this freedom and we will wander away from God and His grace. It is never very late to turn away from one's evil inclinations and return to the Lord. For God is merciful, His arms always open to welcome us, which is why He came, or the reason why He came, to seek those who are lost by being close to the poor and eaten with sinners. So, dear brothers and sisters, just like this prodigal son, let us try not to permanently cut our relationship with the Lord. No matter the situation, let us try to remember how the beginning was, the delightful moments we had with the Lord. Then we will come back from our senses and start again with the Lord. The fourth point of our reflection: faithful love of God. In the readings that the church proposes to us on this Sunday is full of lessons, as I said. Now go back to the first reading again. We see that the Lord automatically changed his mind just after the intervention of Moses. However, the answer to Moses' prayer was not based on the merit of the Israel people, but on the faithful love of God. For salvation is obtained by the fact that we believe in God's mercy and God's infinite goodness. Since the only reason and foundation for the hope of man's salvation is the love of God, a love that can never be corrupted by any infidelity of man, no matter how grievous it is. It is Lord Himself who takes the step towards the sinner and calls him to conversion. This is not because Moses is their shepherd and he had to act in terms of responsibility, but because he recognizes how important it is to support our brothers and sisters in prayer. How important it is to pray for others when they are in trouble. For our journey in the time, our pilgrimage to the heavenly city presents moments of darkness, or moments when evil arrives unexpectedly and sometimes unbearable. So this is the initiative of God, who brings us closer to Him. Thank you very much. I wish you a blessed Sunday.